Are you wondering if you should teach your preschoolers how to write their names in upper or lowercase letters? Or maybe you're wondering why you have one child who can write their name beautifully and another child the same age who absolutely refuses to even try or may even cry when asked. If this sounds like you, then you're in the right place. Based on the questions and responses from last week's episode all about name writing practice, this is a topic many of you have questions about. So if you haven't watched or listened to that one yet, you should definitely go back and do this as soon as you're done with this episode because it's jam-packed full with fun, playful ways to help your kids learn how to write their names. Whether you're a preschool teacher or you're teaching your own children at home, it's very important to understand the why behind the what when it comes to teaching young children how to write the letters of the alphabet. And if you're a longtime listener or viewer of Elevating Early Childhood, then you know I'm all about research-based teaching best practices. So let's start with 3 basic facts about uppercase letters. Fact number 1, uppercase letters are all the same height on the page. So let's take a look at what I mean when I say that. So I'm going to write the letter A, and then I am going to write the letter B on this piece of lined paper, and then the C, and then the D. Do you see how each letter starts at the top line and goes down to the bottom line? They're all the same size. So that brings me to fact number 2. When writing uppercase letters, we always start from the top, like so. And I'm writing a G, and I'm writing an H, and I'm writing an I. So we're always starting at the top and going down. This makes writing the uppercase letters easier because children will essentially be rolling a boulder or their pencils downhill instead of pushing that boulder uphill, which can cause muscle fatigue and even pain when writing. That brings me to fact number 3. Uppercase letters are less sophisticated than lowercase, which means they have fewer loops and swirls and hooks and more single stroke lines, making them much easier to write than lowercase letters. So let's take uppercase E, and lowercase e. Do you see how much more sophisticated the lowercase e is? You have to know where the middle of this bottom part of the line is. You have to kind of guess, and you have to go straight out and around. So there's a lot of different things that go into that as opposed to 3 straight lines. But there's so much more to consider when it comes to writing letters than just which case they're written in. You'll also have to take into consideration who is holding the pencil and writing the letters. In this case, it's young children ages 3 to 5, which means we have to look at writing letters through a child development lens, in addition to the way that letters are formed when they're written. So here's child development fact number 1. Each child develops the muscles in their fingers, wrists, arms, shoulders, and even their bodies required for writing at different times. In fact, crawling even plays a big part in this developmental process. Child development fact number 2. The muscles in the hands required to hold a writing tool must be well developed before a child may begin to feel confident or successful in writing their name or the letters on paper. Child development fact number 3. Writing is very different from identifying the printed letter, and one of those skills may happen before the other. Child development fact number 4. Writing is also very different than drawing. You see, quite often young children will draw the letters instead of actually writing them. And we don't want young children to look at a letter with their eyes and then try to recreate that letter on paper with the writing tool before they've been shown how to form the letters properly from top to bottom. So if a child hasn't been taught how to write from top to bottom, it can lead to a lot of problems later on because they may not develop fluent writing skills. So their writing may be slow and their hands may become fatigued from pushing that pencil from the bottom to the top instead of rolling the pencil down the page from top to bottom. So here's an example of drawing a letter versus writing a letter. So for those of you watching along or listening, I'm drawing a shape here. And I absolutely know that all of the early childhood educators out there watching this know what letter I just tried to make. I am drawing the letter A, right? The kids see the circle, so they try to recreate it, but their hand's not really quite ready yet. And they know that it has some kind of a little tail at the bottom, and so they go down to the bottom and they try to make the tail. So they don't understand the proper letter formation for the letter A, the lowercase letter A. Now let's look at another popular thing that I see children doing when they're trying to write another letter. Now you let me know if you know what letter this is. Now that's pretty easy to see what it is now. So listeners, I just wrote the letter T on my paper, but I did it in a way that wasn't writing. It was drawing. I noticed that the letter T has a line going down, and I was able to do that because that's one straight line. And then it has a line going across the top. And children who are just drawing and not writing will make 2 strokes for the top of the letter T. And those strokes could come in from the outside or they could come from the inside of the T. This is an example of a child who is drawing their letters. Child development fact number 5. Young children move through the different stages of drawing and writing at different times. So they may start at age 2.5, 2, even 3 sometimes, by just tapping a crayon on blank paper. And they're delighted to see the magic dots and squiggles that appear when they do that. And then they'll gradually start to make larger marks on the page, which eventually leads them to scribbling. So think of this process like a baby learning to crawl before they can walk. And now that we know the facts, we can reframe our thinking around teaching young children how to write the letters of the alphabet and which case to use. And these facts naturally lead us to the conclusion that, now listen up, because this is the part you've all been waiting for, okay? If we know that each child needs well-developed fine motor skills to hold writing tools and then write with those tools, and they develop the muscles to do that at different times, and also that uppercase letters are easier for young children to write than lowercase, then it only makes sense to teach young children how to write the uppercase letters first, before lowercase. This will ensure that we are setting them up for success on the road to writing. For example, if we're asking a 3-year-old with weak muscles in the fingers, wrists, arms, and shoulders to write their name with a pencil, we may be asking them to perform a task that they are not physically capable of, which can lead to the child not liking writing, right? And now that doesn't mean that all 3-year-olds aren't ready to write their names. There are certainly some who can. And if they're able to write letters, we also have to stop and ask ourselves, are they drawing them or are they actually writing them? What it does mean is if the skill of writing letters is individual to each child, then we should not be asking or expecting every child in our classroom to perform the same task. So that leads me to some of the burning questions I received about writing from listeners and viewers just like you. And question number 1 is, what should you do if your students cry or refuse to write their names when asked? So first things first, we have to know and understand that all behavior is a form of communication. So if the children are indeed crying or refusing to write, what are they trying to tell us with this behavior? It could be that they're not really ready to perform the task they've been asked to do, or it might mean they just need more time and practice developing their fine and gross motor skills first. And lastly, you might ask yourself what you could do to make it more fun and playful so it seems less like work. And in that case, you definitely need to watch or listen to episode 57 if you haven't already. Burning question number 2. What should I do if they write their letters from the bottom and not the top? So here's the thing, daily exposure to modeling of the correct letter formation and process and multiple daily opportunities to interact with writing tools and invitations to use them. Those are some key things that you'll need to be doing in your classroom. And one way you can do this is through shared writing experiences. Now, if you would like an entire podcast episode all about that and how that process works, then let me know either in the comments below if you're watching along or through email if you're listening, and I'll put it on my list. Burning question number 3. Should I be teaching my kids to identify only the uppercase letters first? And the answer to that is a resounding and emphatic no, because learning to identify the letters of the alphabet and learning how to write the letters of the alphabet are two completely separate skills. My take is that print appears in the world all around us every day, and that print that we see appears in 2 cases, upper and lowercase. So for example, you don't cover the eyes of your child if you pass a sign that has writing in sentence case, do you? Or when you're reading a book aloud, do you say, don't look at the page because that writing is in 2 different cases? You see, young children can identify and name letters before they're ever ready to write them. So unless you're asking children to physically write letters, then it doesn't need to be in all caps for them to look at it, right? And if you are asking them to write their name, then be sure that their name cards that they have are written in all caps and available to them too. So that brings me to burning question number 4. It's one of my favorites. And that is, won't it be more difficult for their kindergarten teacher to break them of the habit of writing in all caps if they're taught to write that way now? And this is one of my favorite questions. So think about it like this. If we think about preschoolers writing their names versus kindergartners writing their names, what is the primary difference between those 2 groups? It's not a trick question, I promise. The difference is that they are 2 different ages, right? So we can't hold a 4-year-old to the same exact standards as a 5-year-old. Now, here's a question to help you reframe your thinking around this. Would you expect a baby who's 3 months old to walk? Of course not. That would be ridiculous because the muscles they need for walking haven't developed at that age. So why would we expect the exact same thing from a 4-year-old that we would expect from a 5-year-old? It's like comparing apples to oranges, right? So the bottom line is we cannot start with the end goal of writing their name in sentence case, first letter upper and the others all lowercase. But we can work towards that goal gradually over time. You see, writing requires many, many precursor skills before a child will be ready to write their names in regular sentence case. And preschoolers have to build up those muscles and exercise them daily before they have the confidence and the stamina required for real writing. And that brings me to the final big question, the grand finale, if you will. Drum roll, please. And that question is, which type of pencil is best to use when teaching preschoolers how to write? And the answer to that question is, it depends. For children who have a lot of experience holding writing tools, for example, at home, they've had plenty of opportunities to play and explore with markers, pens, pencils, and crayons, and they have a rather good pencil grasp. Then I've had the most success using golf pencils. Yes, these little tiny pencils that people use for, I guess, keeping score of golf. Or if you're an IKEA shopper, that you use at IKEA. I prefer not to use pencils with erasers with this age group because they tend to fixate on the eraser and sometimes even chew them, which distracts them from the real work of writing. And for those young children who may not have had many or even any opportunities or experiences with holding writing tools, I like to start with a triangular pencil like this one here. It's flat on 3 sides and it promotes the proper pencil grasp. And then with those children, I move on to golf pencils when they've got the grasp down. Now, generally speaking, the large, chunky pencils and crayons encourage children to grasp them with their entire hand, which doesn't help them when it comes to writing. So there you have it. I hope you have a much better understanding of the differences between writing uppercase and lowercase letters, and you can move forward with confidence in your classroom or at home with your own children. But don't forget, this episode was all about writing the letters or handwriting, not at all about identifying the letters of the alphabet. I've got a lot of other episodes about how to teach young children to recognize and name the upper and lowercase letters of the alphabet. So let me know what other questions you have about teaching preschoolers how to write. And until next time, I'm Vanessa Levin. Onward and upward. If you think these videos are valuable, you have got to come check out the Teaching Trailblazers program. Teaching Trailblazers is the place for teachers like you to get the professional development resources and support you need to thrive. It's where you can learn relevant, life-changing best practices with professional development created specifically around the challenges early childhood teachers face. It's where you can get access to a complete research-based pre-K curriculum that you can use either to supplement your existing curriculum or use on its own to get 100% of your students kindergarten ready by the end of the year. And it's where you can hang out and connect over all things early childhood with other teachers just like you and me. It's my favorite place on earth, and it will change your teacher life, I guarantee it. Come join us at teachingtrailblazers.com to get more information and apply today. That's teachingtrailblazers.com. I can't wait to see you there.